Welcome to Driven Trucking. Today's video, we're going to talk about snap binders versus ratchet binders and how to use them properly. So if that's something you need to know, stick around. This is a daily vlog of a flatbed owner-operator, and on this channel, we talk about general trucking knowledge, we talk about flatbed securement, we talk about lifestyle and health and fitness out here on the road. So if that's something you're interested in, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below. Ring that notification bell so you know when my next video is coming out, and please give the video a thumbs up if you like it, or leave a comment down below and let me know how I can improve this channel. So thanks for joining us, guys. Today I just wanted to say hi from outside of the truck. Thought that would actually be nice for a change, and before we got rolling and before we got underway. So hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll come back at you in a little while. So as you can see, we've got this I-beam here. Up here in the front, we have that 1 foot of overhang I was talking about yesterday. It actually goes off the back by a couple feet, so making this total load 51 feet. So if you divide that by 10, that's 5.1. You have to round it to the next whole number, which is 6. So the minimum on the length is 6, plus we do not have a header board up here, so that you have to add one for that, so that's 7. So the minimum per DOT is 7 points of securement. Now I went ahead and put 8. I put 1 extra for good measure. You know, we've got good separation between our points of securement, so I felt like 8 was good. We have 6 snap binders, and that's actually all we carry. And so we put the ratchet binders, 1 in the very, very front and 1 in the very, very rear. Because the ratchet binders are they will tend to stay more secure throughout transit. That's the downfall of a snap binder. It's much, much faster, but it's not as secure as a ratchet binder. There's the 2 feet of overhang I was talking about. But I just want to show you guys this load before I got rolling. You know, it's a little bit cool outside. Not much, but it's cooler than it's going to be later on. So while I'm cruising up these back roads, let's talk about something very important when you're talking about chains, and that's working load limits. Working load limits are very important when talking about chains, simply because you are connecting many different items together. However, you only get credit for whatever it is that you're using on that point of securement for the minimum of whichever item is the lowest. So for example, a 3/8 chain grade 70 is rated at 6,600 pounds. But if you wrap that around a spool on your trailer, and the working load limit for that spool is only 4,000 pounds, well, you're only going to get credit on that point of securement for 4,000 pounds. Each trailer has somewhere on it a posting of what the working load limits are for the different points of securement, like mine right here. So you need to be very careful about what you're getting credit for, and keep that in mind when trying to figure out how much securement you actually need for that load. Another thing to keep in mind is there's 2 different ways to attach chains. You can do it with straps, but it's typically not. It's typically only done with chains. Good grief, this road is bouncy. It's direct securement, which you would take the chain on one side of the trailer, you'd run it up, and you would attach it, generally in an equipment type scenario, and then you run the chain back down, and then you connect it to the same side of the trailer. That's called direct securement, and that's so you think of it like it directly attaches to the freight. The indirect securement, which is typically a strap scenario, or like what we have back there, so this is something to always keep in mind. And it's another reason why you should not use the minimum amount of securement required by DOT. Just simply because CYA. You know, you want to cover your own butt, and you don't want to get in trouble. But even more important than CYA is you want to protect everybody around you on the road. You know, there are families that drive beside you, and do you want something falling off and, you know, destroying a family, and then you have to live with that for the rest of your life? I mean, you know, forget about the money, forget about going to jail, or forget about anything. Just having to live with that for the rest of your life, that's detrimental. So it's always best to put more securement than what is required minimally by DOT. Pros versus cons on snap binders. The pros are going to be it is much, much faster to secure. That's it. It's not a long list, unfortunately. The cons are going to heavily outweigh the snap binders, but they are much, much faster. So that is something to keep in mind. The cons would be it's much easier for them to come loose. Also, it's kind of dangerous in order to secure the snap binders. They can easily, whenever you're really winching down on it, that bar can come back and hit you, and it'll knock you off, knock you out, knock you off the trailer, and do all sorts of things. I've got a friend of mine who was using a snap binder, and he'd been flatbed a long time, and it still happened to him. Now they've changed the design of the snap binder a little bit, but still, it's still the same. The snap binder came up, pow, popped him in the mouth. Now his entire top row of teeth are dentures. So that's kind of up to you whether or not you want to use snap binders. Like I said, they are very quick. In an application like I have on my trailer now, where I have very large I-beam, I have very low risk of those I-beam actually coming off of the trailer. Well, it's fine to go ahead and use snap binders. Because, like I said, unless I'm really slamming on the brakes or I'm trying to drift around a corner or something, the freight's probably not going to go anywhere. So snap binders on something like this are fine, but like on a coil, you certainly want to use ratchet binders to make sure that they stay in place. The pros versus cons on ratchet binders. The pros are going to be they're going to stay a lot more secure. You have a much lower risk of that chain getting loose and coming off. Now they can work themselves loose, so you do need to check them. Do your checks every 200 miles max, and make sure that they're all nice and tight. But in general, if a snap binder comes loose, the whole chain is just completely loose and it's useless. If a ratchet binder starts to work its way loose, the chain just slowly loses its tightness over time, and it's not just completely off. Another thing is you can get ratchet binders tighter, easier. You can put the right amount of pressure on a ratchet binder versus a snap binder. A snap binder, once you lock it in place, that's the pressure that you're going to get. The snap binder, you can continue to really winch down and make sure that it is nice and tight. Something to keep in mind, let's say you're putting a ton of chains on one coil, so you have all of your chains together, and you're securing it not over the entirety of the trailer, but right there in the middle of the trailer. Be careful not to over tighten all of those chains. So if you use extra chains like I do, you can actually rip that rub rail right off the side. So that's something to keep in mind. So another pro to the ratchet binder is it's much, much safer. You're not running the risk of knocking yourself out or off the trailer or all of your teeth out. The cons of the ratchet binder are going to be time. It takes a lot more time to secure the ratchet binder, but if you get good at it, it's not that much more time, really. Another con is going to be the upkeep. You really need to make sure that you are lubricating the ratchet binder at a regular interval. I recommend every 2 weeks or after a hard rain, because they can gain rust, and when they gain rust, they become very hard to work with. But if you keep them nice and lubricated, they're actually very simple to work with, and they're going to work much, much better. You're going to keep the rust off of those, and they're going to even last much longer. At worst, I would say do not go more than 1 month without lubricating. The lubricant I use is PB Blaster, just because you can buy it in a little bit larger bulk than you can WD-40, and it's a little bit less expensive and works the same. But either or, WD-40 or PB Blaster or something along those lines is going to work. Don't use grease. Bad idea. Grease is not going to work. It's just going to collect all of the gunk, and it's going to stop them up, and they're actually going to stop working. So the cons of the ratchet binder would be time and the upkeep. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to wrap your chain around 2 points of securement in your rub rail. And that's, you're going to try to wrap around 2 spools if possible. Don't be afraid to use the pockets though. It's just you have to keep in mind you can actually crush those pockets if you really, really cinch down on a ratchet binder, or if you're trying to make a snap binder really tight. Try to use 2 spools if possible, but don't be afraid to use the pockets as well. This is a stake pocket, and this is a spool. Once you wrap them around, you're going to take your hook and you're going to run it over the top of that chain to secure it. That way the point is facing down towards the trailer. So as you can see here, I've got the chain going around the 2 spools, and then it's connected to each other, but that hook is facing inward and down. So even if the binder was to come loose, that chain is not going to come off, fly off, most likely. Once you have both sides of the chain attached and you figure out where your binder is going to go, then you want to line up the chain to where it is running straight all the way to the binder. And what this does, if you have that chain straight, whenever you go to tighten it, the chain, or the binder is not going to twist the chain, and it's going to make it more secure. It's going to make it much less likely that that chain is going to come loose, and you won't be tightening it every 200 miles. That looks like this. And here you see how the links are all in line with each other. They're all going up and down like that. Versus, I did not do a very good job down here. And you can see how they start to rotate around. Now it's time to tighten down those binders. Here's an example of how to tighten a snap binder. You want to make sure that when you do tighten down that snap binder, that you're not tightening down towards the very edge of the trailer. This will minimize the risk of slipping and falling off of the trailer, which can be, well, it can be fatal. When using snap binders, it's pretty much the same principle as the ratchet binder. You're gonna pull your chain tight, hook one end up. I recommend starting with, whenever you open the snap binder, starting with the end with the handle. This is gonna come into play later. This way you always know which way the handle's moving. Then you want to take your other end, pull it as tightly as possible, and then you actually want to come back one link. Now I already set up this this snap binder simply because for time, for the video's sake, sometimes it can take you a little bit to find the right link in order to find the right tension. Now I'm going to show you where the right tension is located. Right here would be about 90 degrees whenever you have your chains hooked together. So whenever you pull it over, you want it to be just a little bit past 90 degrees. This is probably going to be very, very tight, but it's going to work. It should work. I may have to put some muscle into it. But anywhere from 90 degrees over to here is going to be about the right tension in order to put onto the chain once you tighten this lever down. And we're always pulling towards the side of the trailer with the most room. That way, in case something slips or you fall, trip, whatever happens, you don't fall, hopefully, you don't fall off of the trailer. So I'm gonna show you how to, we're gonna attempt to tighten this down. There we go, nice and tight. Chain is super tight, that was perfect tension. And here is how you're going to tighten down your ratchet binder. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pull that chain as tight as possible, making sure that it's straight. We're going to hook in one end of your binder. You're going to take the other end of the chain, you're going to pull it as strong as possible, making it as straight, and hook in the other side of the binder in the furthest length that you possibly can. Now here's a couple of tips. No matter what you do, these ratchet binders are going to try and twist. So you can take your winch bar and actually slide it into this link right here, and that'll hold that one in place. On the other end, you can put your foot on this hook, and that will allow you to actually close down the binder without it twisting. So here's that example. After you tighten down your binder and you check to make sure that the chain is nice and tight, nice and secure, you want to take that excess chain and you either want to wrap it around the binder or you want to secure it somehow, that way it's not just flopping around. This is especially important when the binder is close to the edge of the trailer. You want to wrap it around that binder and you want to take a bungee and you can hook it to the side, just like a tarp, and keep that chain from coming loose and just flopping off the side of your trailer. So which one is better, a ratchet binder or a snap binder? Well, I'm going to have to give this one to the ratchet binder. It is more safe and it is more secure, but really it's a judgment call on your part. You're going to have to decide what is going to work best for you. Also, don't take what I say as gospel. Do your own research, put in your own work, and make sure that you are comfortable and you know everything that you need to know about securing chains and binders. Also, don't forget, just because DOT says you have to do it this way doesn't mean that your company doesn't want you to do it a different way. Now make sure that it does fall into line with DOT's guidelines, but you need to research that as well because every company is going to be different and they're going to tell you different things. Some companies won't allow you to short chain, but there are a lot of drivers out there that short chain. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that. That's a little bit advanced for this video. Maybe I'll talk about it in a future video, but like I said, just keep in mind, not all companies are going to have the same guidelines, and you should be familiar with both your companies as well as DOTs. Everything in this video is my opinion on how to do or how to properly secure chains, so don't take it as gospel. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, do remember, please give it a thumbs up. I will continue to do different securement videos just like this one, but the majority of the videos are going to be a daily vlog. So if that is something that you do like, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And remember, stay driven.